Good morning, everybody. It's 10:30 by my time, and I believe it's okay to start.
Good morning.
Just a bit. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Sean Koshwedo, and I'm your host for today's event. Sorry, having a. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, you can be heard.
Oh, okay, great. Please give me a moment. Yes, thank you. Now we're back on. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Depending on where you're joining from, I know that we have people joining from all over the place here. We have people joining from India, from Ghana, from Uganda. I am thrilled, I'm excited to welcome you to the Data Quality Management event organized by CWG Ghana in partnership with Centelon. I am your host, Shion Koshwedo. I want to say thank you so much for taking your time to be here. And we do not take it for granted. And we promise that it's going to be a worthwhile event. I want you to know that you're stuck with me for 60 minutes, and I promise not to take more than 60 minutes of your time. Then I want to assure you that you're in a safe zone, and you need to be in your most comfortable state so that you can get the most from today's session. So if you need anything from me, the chat box is free. Write about it, talk about it, and I will communicate it to my team and ensure that I will get it to you wherever you are. Thanks to technology, we can literally deliver anything to any part of the world at any time. So in a few moments, we're going to be joined by thought leaders from the financial services industry. I can see that my panelists are already here. So they will be showing us their faces and we'll be hearing from them in a few minutes. They'll also be sharing insights on data quality management and how it affects the overall performance of today's organization. Just to do a brief introduction of the members of our panel session today. I have Mrs. Sarah Okwan. She's an experienced data professional with a wealth of knowledge on the topic. Then also I have Dr. Joseph Asante. He's the Chief Risk and Credit Officer of ARB Apex Bank. I also have Mr. Asari Asante, the Head of Information Technology of FBN Bank, and I have Mr. Prabash Thakur. He's the Director Data Science, Centelon, India. So in a few moments, I am going to request that our panelists turn on their video and also do a more elaborate introduction of our panelists, because we want to also create a close and inclusive community. So if you feel the need to express your thoughts on anything that we discuss, again, the chat box is free. Please just put in your thoughts, put in how you're feeling in the chat box. And as the summit progresses as well, we encourage that all delegates should post their questions in a questions and answer box. So right there on the screen below, you see a question and answer box that you can post your questions. Sorry, just going to the chat box in a bit. I can see Vinay saying good morning. Good morning, Vinay. It's great to have you here today. Thank you for joining us. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Be Free is going to be a relaxed atmosphere and absolutely conversational, I would say. But before we dive right into the source of today, I like to call it the source of the juice of today. I do want to do a brief introduction of our organizers, the CWG Ghana and Centelon. So CWG Ghana was established in 2003. It's an autonomous subsidiary of CWG PLC, and has for the last 18 years focused on delivering technology solutions and services, both hardware, software, and communication. CWG Ghana has successfully implemented and supported enterprise applications and technology solutions with premium organizations in Ghana and West Africa, and in sectors including financial services, telecommunications, manufacturing, and government, amongst others. Also giving a brief background into Centelon. Centelon IT Solutions is a digital transformation and data solutions, an IT service provider company with expertise in financial services, insurance services, non-profit, education, government, energy and utility domains. Centelon is well positioned to help businesses make the vital transition to the digital world. Ladies and gentlemen, those are the organizers for today's session. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Let's have a conversation. Write your name, write the company you work with, and your position. So I'll be going into the chat box from time to time, just to ensure that my audience is with me. So we're moving right into it. As I had earlier mentioned, I am not going to take more than 60 minutes of your time. But before I introduce our panelists, I would want to do a brief introduction. I mean, let's have an understanding of why we're here today. We're talking about data quality management in banking and financial services institution. We know how data quality is pivotal and important to organizations, especially in today's world. Companies are constantly making significant investments in data warehouses and business intelligence. However, this effort can be easily undone or undermined if the underlying data is unreliable or cannot be verified. So CWG in partnership with Centelon have decided to sort of bring in an in-depth discussion to help financial services organizations and banks, especially with well-known experts, understand how data quality management and its practices can support banking and financial institutions. So today we want to ensure that everybody present here gains insights on how quality can simplify complex data issues, how we can build data quality to suit organizational needs, and how we can leapfrog legacy data quality methods as well. So going right into introducing our panelists, I would like to kindly request that all our panelists come on video so that I can do an introduction of everybody. I have Dr. Asante here, Mrs. Sarah, um, Mr. Prabash, Mr. Asari Asante. Could you please turn on your video while we do the introduction? I do not see the chat box on fire. Let's keep it rolling. Let's keep it rolling. Let's know who is here, and I will introduce you to everybody. So jumping right into the introduction of our panelists. First, I have Madam Sarah Opan. She's an experienced data professional leading a team of data scientists, data engineers, visualization analysts, and business intelligence analysts and developers. Her experience includes the setting up of business intelligence analytics and big data units in 3 different financial organizations in Ghana and across Africa. Please let's welcome Mrs. Sarah Okbani. If you can clap, you know, lately, because of how digital the world has gone, you don't have to physically do stuff again. So let's give Mrs. Sarah a virtual clap. Thank you. Then I also have here with me today Dr. Joseph Asante. So he's currently the Chief Risk and Credit Officer of ARB Apex Bank. He specializes in creating robust risk management and risk governance capabilities for rapidly growing financial service providers. He seeks to protect shareholders' value, shareholders' interest, and drive business sustainability, continuity, and growth. He has worked with several financial service providers, including the Standard Chartered Bank, Premium Bank as well. I've also got Mr. Asari Asante, who started work in the banking industry in 2004 as an executive trainee with the Standard Trust Bank, which is now UBA Ghana. He was a member of the Risk Management Committee, Disaster Recovery, Business Continuity Committee, and the IT Steering Committee of UBA Ghana Limited. His experience with UBA has helped him to set up all forms of IT e-banking infrastructure for best points, including the disaster recovery or business continuity side. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, I have Mr. Prabash Thakur, who has a vast experience of over 25 years in artificial intelligence, M&A corporate development, and management consultant. He's the director of data science at Centelon and is looking after data quality management, data science, and engineering for large banking and financial institutional clients, along with product management for AI-based data reduction. Ladies and gentlemen, those are our panelists for today. Can we see you, please? Mr. Prabash, Dr. Joseph Asante, Mr. Asari Asante, Mrs. Sarah, can you please come on video? We're about to go into the panel discussion. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Sean, I think we are unable to start our video.
So video is blocked by host.
Oh, okay, could the team please fix that? Thank you. Nia, please help with that so that we can get this rolling. But regardless, we're just going to move into it. I think your audio is working fine. While we're trying to sort out the video glitches, we will just move right into it and have a conversation. Okay, I see Mr. Prabash. I think we're getting it started. Mrs. Sarah, Dr. Joseph Asante, Mr. Sari Asante, please confirm that you can turn on your video now.
No, I'm still getting same error.
Okay.
Not yet. I'm also having same error.
Okay, in the meantime, I think we can just have a conversation while my technical team is working on making that happen. Hi, Michael from GT Bank Ghana. Thank you for joining. Dr. Joseph Asante, we're definitely working on it, and I'm sure that it will come up in a bit. But while that is going on, I think it's okay to have a conversation as well. So let's just jump right into it. So one thing that I'm sure that everybody here would like to hear is individual thoughts on data quality management and the value it adds to the organization. So Mr. Prabash, because I see you first. Oh, Mr. Prabash was just here. Mr. Prabash, are you still with me? Okay,
Yes, I am.
Okay, so because I see you first, I'm just going to direct that question to you. So what are your thoughts on data quality management, especially in today's world? And how do you think it adds value to different organizations?
Yeah, thank you, Sean. So if we look at the problem of data quality across the board, what we are seeing more and more is that pretty much most of the mid to large size organizations are facing this particular issue. And it's not because anyone is sloppy in their work. It so happens that as technology evolves, as businesses evolve, the fields that we were capturing for our customers, for our business, they have changed. And with that, any reporting, any analytics, any decisions that we want to make based on those data points, they become more and more irrelevant, both from business perspective, regulatory reporting perspective, and so on. So anything that is inaccurate, incomplete would be treated as a data quality problem. And I think, organizations, are taking heed to it and making changes towards it.
Thank you, Mr. Prabash. Yay, my panelists are here. Hello, Mr. Asante Asari. Hi, Mrs. Sirafman. Dr. Joseph, can we see you? Great. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, I don't know whether you can see me. I am located. I am somewhere. I'm somewhere in a very, very awkward location, and I still have to be online. So kindly bear with me.
Oh, it's fine.
I think it's a bit dark. Whether you can see my face, I don't know, but I'm trying to see if you can find my face.
You can see, we can work with it, Dr. Joseph. We can work with it. Anyway,
okay. All right.
since we had a conversation already, I'd just like to know your thoughts on data quality management and why organizations should adopt data quality management at all.
Yeah, okay, so that's not, I'm privileged to be here, first of all, and I'm grateful for granting me the opportunity to come over here and share some thoughts and views about data quality management today. In fact, today it's a very topical issue. It's a very, very critical topical issue within the financial services sector. It's a critical measure of business success factors today in organizations. Gone were the years when financial service providers actually didn't have data. They were doing things quite manually, and predictions and projections and analysis were actually done with lots of obstacles. Today, the financial services sector today has come of age. And in fact, the years ahead are really going to be exciting ahead, because really what is happening is that data is the bedrock of success within the financial services sector. Our ability to generate data, meaningful, credible, useful data, our ability to analyze data, make projections, etc., have a key role today in making financial services be able to stand and be able to be successful. And to be very frank with you, we will talk, I'm sure in the course of time, we'll be talking about the challenges today that data quality brings on board. But that's notwithstanding, data today, when you take from customer acquisition, from portfolio growth, from business projections, from all angles within the financial services sector, it is all about data. It's all about critical data and what data can do today. And institutions that today have invested in the use of data are today the ones that are able to stay. In fact, during this pandemic, in these COVID times, in these challenging times, it is data today that is making businesses grow. It is data today that is helping them to be able to withstand even during these challenging times. And as such, today, you cannot play with data itself. The issue is about the quality and the credibility of that data to use to be able to withstand whatever that is happening. And it's about the investment that banks today or financial institutions can make into technology to be able to use the data that we want to talk about. Let me just pause for a while and then we move and come back again.
Thank you so much for that insightful introduction to the conversation, Dr. Joseph. Mr. Asari Asante, I'm going to you next. So given your expertise in the financial service industry in Ghana, are you able to share or paint the current scenario of the FSI industry in Ghana, and especially where data quality management is concerned? Then what is their readiness for the acceptance of data quality management?
Thank you very much. And I must say that in the financial services, basically everything that we do is based on the data of your people. And so if you want to bring up customers and you want to be able to identify them very well, it is the data you pick on them that is going to help you make sure that the person that you say you have is actually the person. So data in our institutions, financial institutions, is the one most important thing in our progress, in trying to keep your customers, in trying to create products that will help them, in trying to make sure that you are keeping them well. You are giving them the necessary support that they will require. It all behoves on the kind of data you are able to pick on them. So in our institution now, even to be able to be innovative and say that I want to bring out this new technology to my customers, it depends on the kind of data you have on them. So the quality of data that we have to get as financial institutions cannot be overemphasized. It's something that we always have to work at, making sure that we have the data and we have the right data. Because the least thing that you have that is not going to account properly to the individual you have onboarded will create another problem going forward. So it's very important that the quality of data is well managed and well taken care of. And as financial institutions, I think that has been the focus, and that should, if it has not already been the focus of some, then that should be where we all have to head.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sarah Asante. So I'm coming to you, Mrs. Sarah Ockman. From your experience, as a data science professional, do you think that the Ghanaian market has readily accepted the benefits of data? Do you think that the Ghanaian market, especially within the financial services industry, have readily accepted data quality management?
Right. The answer is yes, because if you are not, regulation and the market will force you to, because there are regulatory reports you need to produce, and you cannot over or underestimate what the true facts are. So from where I sit and working with data in the financial institutions over the years, I'll say that the quality of data is the fundamental thing that we need to address before we use the data to make decisions or to build insights for organizations to use. But there are situations where organizations they know the importance of the information that is supposed to go out, but hasn't invested a lot into the quality of the data, all because there are tools and some processes to get the data to a certain shape. But it's gotten to a time where if you don't put the right structures in place, the regulator or the market is going to punish you for that. And that will cost you money, that will hit your bottom line. So I will say, yes, the market is ready for it. Not because some of them have purpose to, but the market is forcing them to, and the regulator is also forcing them to, because of information that is going to be requested from you. So that's the answer, yeah.
Once again, I see that everybody has spoken on the importance of data quality management. So there's no doubt, we understand that, yes, it is quite important, but while adopting or ensuring that we embrace data quality management processes, there are some challenges that different companies or organizations will encounter. Are you able to shed more light on some of these challenges? Mrs. Sarah, are you with me?
Yes.
Yes.
So, yeah, your question again.
The challenges of data quality management, especially within the Ghana.
So, I mean, the challenges that data workers and users of information and analytics face is not only related to Ghana, it's global, okay? And this arises through mergers, acquisitions, introduction of new systems, trying to bring your silos data together. So the challenges are the same. We face from data duplication, error in data capture, you name it, they are numerous. But there are processes you can put in place to make sure that we mitigate these challenges to a point, okay? So there might be two companies coming together, they merge their databases, and you realize that a customer who is on database A is also on database B. Now, how do you reconcile and ensure that it's the same person you are looking at? Or is the data that has been collected on that person complete enough for you to make decisions with it? So the data challenges cuts across the entire sector, and is not only peculiar to banks or financial institutions, it cuts across everywhere that we have data. So these are some of the challenges. We can't do away with it, they will happen all the time. But then what are the plans you need to put in place to mitigate it. That is the key thing we have to look at.
So we'll come back to that in a bit, but I remember when Dr. Joseph was giving his introduction, he mentioned something about the challenges of data. So Dr. Joseph, are you with me? From your experience, what would you say are the challenges of data in the industry?
Okay, so I'll just take a few of them and then discuss them and then share some opinion on what I think should be done. Our colleague, Mrs. Sarah, has mentioned some of these things. For instance, when you take within the financial services sector, for instance, when it comes to the issue of loans, we have what we call the credit bureau system. The credit bureau harbors all the various credit data that is submitted by the various banks. Now we have about 3 credit bureaus that have all the various data, and banks access this data in order to take certain decisions. I'm just giving an example. Now, what are some of the challenges that go with some of these data hubs or data collection or data usage? The first one, for instance, is that of the fact that the source of the data gets actually taken through manual intervention. So you have manual data that can have errors. Now, what we are saying here is that where you have manual data errors, there is the need for institutions, for instance, to embark on automation, either using automation to generate that data to reduce the level of errors. You can also have another challenge to be incomplete data submission, for instance, incomplete information as one of the challenges. Yes, we come across instances that within the financial services sector, you pick up data, for instance, from the credit bureaus, and the data that they have received from the various financial services are not that complete. Now, what can be done in such instances? Where you are a data institution recipient and you receive data and they are incomplete, there should be systems and technology that is able to identify incomplete sections of the data that has been submitted, and that system prompting the sender that these are the gaps that are in these fields, and that these are the things that need to be done. So incomplete data is a challenge, and there should be a mechanism that identifies the incompleteness and resorts back to the sender or whoever submits it to the submitter for that kind of data to be fully completed. You can have challenges also with human errors. You can have human errors that whereby you have human beings also generating wrong data at certain times. And so still the issue of automation then comes in. You can even have errors of ambiguousness. That data can be ambiguous. That at one point in time, you can have, for instance, Joseph Asante, about 2 or 3 Joseph Asantes. How do you allocate the data to the respective persons? These are all systems that can, it is about systems that can actually help to fine-tune instances where you have ambiguous data. You can even have the issues of duplication of data, which our lady has talked about. So all these, the challenges are there, but the is to put in place some form of systems and technology that addresses those gaps. You can have automated systems, you can have systems, algorithms that have been in the system that identifies the errors and the gaps and quickly resorts to those who submit and request for it to be done. And these things, when they are done, to a very large extent, will help us get the right, credible, true data that we use in our analysis in taking decisions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph. I mean, I like the fact that you stated the challenges and also gave solutions to addressing some of these challenges. Mr. Asari Asante, I would like to ask, do you have any contributions, especially from your experience, where challenges that you have faced or you have encountered in the industry at large, or other industries, especially where data quality is concerned?
Yes, I must say that challenges with data start right from the time of capture up to the time of storage. So sometimes through no fault of the one capturing the data, you might either input a wrong data. And sometimes in our environment, as in banking, the little change of even a telephone number can create a very big issue for you in future if it is not well captured, because in the advancement of technology, most of our communication goes either as SMS alerts or as email alerts. So in the change of data, at that point, when you are capturing data and it's not captured well, it brings a whole lot of issues that can even go to tarnish the image of the institution. So these challenges come at capturing, at saving, and sometimes also comes as an incomplete data, as was mentioned earlier. If you have me on your database and in banking, and you have not been able to input all my data correctly, whether it's just my telephone number, which you might think, oh, this is just telephone number, let me leave that place blank and go to email and just put his name and other things. In the long run, when you want the same person onboarded on a technology that you have done, the person cannot do because you cannot verify his telephone number or email to be able to do whether a two-factor authentication to ensure that he is working properly on your systems. So all these things bring challenges to deployment of technology for your customers if your data is not right. So that is some of the challenges you would have in bad data as you move along.
Thank you, Mr. Seriasante. So, Mr. Prabash, I'm coming to you from a different direction. Mr. Prabash, are you with me? So now everybody has spoken on, talked about the challenges of data quality, but I want to go a bit into tech advancement. Yes, we understand that technology has been a blessing, but it has also caused some form of frustrations, especially the fact that, it might not be complicated to some, but you have to be tech savvy to an extent to understand how to use technology. So infusing this into data quality management, do you think that tech advancement has also caused some of the challenges that we currently face where data quality management is concerned? Mr. Prabash, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we are dependent on technology more and more to make our decisions. Just imagine a decade back, we would be doing a lot of things manually, or we would have a very basic understanding of customer profile and segmentation. Today, we are at a situation where we are able to do hyper segmentation, where we are able to target customers individually based on their needs and based on the overall spending behavior that they display. So, which means that we are deploying more and more technology to first understand our customers, understand their needs, and respond to some of those situations. So while we are doing that, we are collecting a lot of data, and in the process, as we heard before, if there is any change in the customer profile, something as simple as a zip code or a telephone number, that can continuously throw all the models off gear. So it's not unusual for companies to send targeted messages to a wrong person. It's not unusual for banks to have a customer who has a high deposit and yet target that person for a personal loan or for a small amount of personal loan. All right. So these issues are there, and just as you mentioned, technology has usage of technology has brought some of these things forward in front of us, and technology can also help us solve them. So we also have a solution for some of these problems, and I would leave that for subsequent questions.
So, Mr. Prabhash, one more thing, right? In the course of your conversation, I hear how you talk about getting data for customers that are online. Thanks to technology, it has been easy to be able to retrieve and be able, because of analytical tools, we can easily analyze data for customers that are online. So my question now is, how do we analyze data for customers that are offline and don't necessarily have access to online forms of communication or any online access at all? So how do we manage those customers that are online excluded, I would say?
Yeah. So, the customers which are not so much of online, most people these days have some sort of access, but some people don't want to use that for behavioral reasons completely. For those customers, the data quality problem is even higher. Reason being that those customers interact with an institution through a phone or through visits to a branch by filling those forms, and somebody else is taking that data and entering it in the system. So it's not as if institutions don't use that data. Maybe sometimes they may just completely lose that information, but many times somebody at the call center is picking that information, filling that in CRM, and there is always this chance of losing some information or having that not captured accurately, and hence having that whole cycle of data quality related customer satisfaction problems.
Thank you, Mr. Prabhash. Mrs. Sarah, I'm coming to you now. As Mr. Prabhash was having a conversation there, a question came to my mind. At the end of the day, the results or the power or authenticity of the results of any data that is being analyzed rests in the hands of the data scientist or the data analyst. And sometimes it can introduce some form of mismanagement of the results, some form of discrepancies where this results are concerned. So from your experience, or what are your thoughts on how we can manage discrepancies, especially where data quality is concerned?
Right. Okay. So as have been mentioned by most of the panelists, the quality of the data is key, and that's why we're discussing this. Now, there are processes we need to put in place to try and reduce this ambiguity and then discrepancies that come about from the insights that we draw from the data that we have housed. Now, some of them can be as simple as putting a data governance in place. So from the point of capturing the data and transforming it and putting a data quality tool in place or agreeing on some measures. So a typical one is, you cannot have 100% clean data, okay? But then you agree on a range that if I'm looking at this data and I can establish consistency to about 80% or 90%, then my inference that I'm making is right. Or if I'm looking at this data and it has features similar to the other one, close to about 89%, then I'm looking at the same customer or the same data. Okay, so these are some of the measures we try to put in place to avoid drawing insights that will be questionable, because the output we churn can either make or break an organization. Because once it leaves the hands of the data scientists and we prove based on what we are seeing, and we try to remove biases, yet some biases remain and is used in decision making, the implications are very dire. So it's important to put processes in place, okay, from data governance to proper data management tools, and also have some data quality tools in place and set rules that will let you know that you are looking at the right data in your decision making. So these are some of the things that we try to put in place to ensure that we mitigate or reduce the discrepancies that might come up in decision making with the data we have modeled.
Thank you, Mrs. Siralpan. Dr. Joseph, I was wondering if you wanted to speak or contribute to that effect.
To the issue of the discrepancies, if I understand that. Is that right?
Yes, please.
Okay. So add a few more. The issue of discrepancies would largely depend on the technology that would be deployed. Because when you analyze the sources of these discrepancies that we are talking about, whether human errors, whether duplication, whether even ambiguity, whether formats, etc. All these ones. These are all discrepancies that to a very large extent can be resolved or can be put in a better shape through the use of appropriate technology. In fact, all these errors, or all these challenges that we are talking about, if data is continuing to grow, and that's what we are going to see, data will continue to grow, and the discrepancies will also continue to exist. But the solution line will depend on the deployment of technology, the appropriate technology. We should be able to deploy appropriate technology to address each of these discrepancies as and when. Because as human institutions as we are, as institutions are always manned by humans, definitely challenges will be there, definitely errors will be there. But technology, high-tech technology, improved and enhanced digital technology, to a very large extent, will go a very long way in reducing the discrepancies. But the discrepancies would not be wiped off entirely. They would, to a very large extent, be there, but at a minimum level as expected. And technology will manage these discrepancies as we move on.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Joseph, for your take. Mr. Prabash, I am coming to you next. But before I do want to say that if you have any questions, if you agree on anything that our panelists have said, just include it in the chat box or include it in the question and answer box. After this session, I'll be going into both spaces to take our questions and ensure that they are effectively responded to. So, Mr. Prabash, I hear everybody talking about technology. I hear everybody talking about tools and processes that have to be in place to ensure that, of course, we produce quality data. Not only produce quality data, it is effectively managed, and ensuring that we have, if not 0% discrepancies, but at as little discrepancies as possible. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the tools and technologies that can be in place, especially as a Centelon director, the tools and technology that can be in place for data quality management.
Sure. So, as we all discussed, the issue of data quality directly touches our customers. And hence, it's very important that it's not treated only as a technology problem. You cannot be successful in fixing the data quality issues if you just leave it to technology. We need to make sure that the business is involved, and we start with something called a data profiling, and there are a lot of tools that help us in data profiling. And then post the data profiling, there are tools to fix it. Now, if I were to look at tools, they are primarily in three groups. There are some of these large companies that have been present in ERP, in data analysis. So companies like, SAP, SAS, IBM, Microsoft. So these companies have come up with their own suite of data quality tools. So that's one area that of development. The second area is that, what we call data warehouse always had something called an ETL, which is the extraction and transformation layer. And there are a lot of companies which were into ETL and data warehouse related, softwares. So think of companies such as Informatica or TIBCO or, or Talent. These companies have, because, they ingest a lot of data and feed it to data warehouse. They have put in those capabilities in between to make sure that some level of data quality checks are in place. And then lastly, these days you have a lot of these new best of the breed solution providers who are cloud-based, who say, well, we are very focused only on data quality. We can take data from any source, analyze it, give you the answers. And, so that is another set of players. And in that group, I would put companies like Alteryx, Elation, and there are a couple of others. There is a company called Precisely, which is a rebranding of Whitney Bowes. So these companies are present in helping us in data quality management. But as I said, it's not just a pure technology implementation; it's a mix of business process and technology.
Thank you, Mr. Prabash. So, Mrs. Sarah, again, I'm bringing you to the spotlight. For data quality management to be effectively implemented in organizations, some form of budget has to go into it. And for you to get this budget, you have to defend to the CFO, you have to defend to board of directors, you have to defend to the executive management on the return on investment of data quality management. So are you able to share what the return on, how do we measure it? How do we measure the return on investment on data quality management?
That's a very interesting question because usually it's difficult for organizations to say that we are budgeting an X amount of data for data quality or data management. Usually, everybody appreciates when you use data to make decisions, data that we have collected over the years. But then, if you asking for budget to get either support or implement certain things that will make the quality of the data close to, an appreciable level, it's difficult to defend. But how do we do it? There's been times that what we have done is to ensure that you put some figures on the use cases or the KPIs that you are modeling, okay, for the decision making. Data does not stand alone. Data services a business. So what we do is you look at the, if you're talking about customer acquisition, for instance, how much does it cost us to acquire a single customer? If you are talking about designing a product, what element goes into designing this product or coming up with a unique product? So if you look at how much it costs you in terms of all the canvassing and the campaigns and all that, and you look at the data you're going to put in or the quality of data you're going to use to support this campaign, and you have issues with it, the way to defend it is if that data goes wrong, this is how much it's going to cost us per single customer. Maybe your campaigns, your the stuff that goes around to get the customer might cost, let's say $100. Now, if you're losing 3 or 5% of your customers over a year, if you put a value to that and you speak to the CFOs or you speak to the business leaders, once there is a figure, there is an amount that is hitting the bottom line of the organization, they will listen. It's difficult to measure, but you have to put in the context of the business that if this does not exist, what do you lose? If this is not present, what position are you, where are you positioning yourself in the market? So that is a way to look at it, by putting figures to it, and that will enable the CFOs who understand figures and the money and what it does to your bottom line. They will turn heads and listen to it. And this will also inform what amount or to be voted in the for data projects.
Thank you, Mr. Sari. What do you think about it? How do we measure the ROI on data quality management, and how do we defend this to the board of directors and management in general?
Okay, like Sarah has already said, most often than not, you can come from the point of what do you lose, instead of saying this is how much I need. Because if you have wrong data, like I mentioned earlier, you can get yourself into so many things, and it can also even lead to fraud. So let's say that in setting up your data, you put my number in the system for another customer. When you set the customer up for SMS alert, my balances is what the customer is going to see. And that, in the first instance, if I'm able to notice that you made that mistake, and I take you on and I go to court on it, and you are displaying my message, my balances, which per the banking rules you are not supposed to do to any other person, you know what you will lose. So in trying to get good data, like I said, it works across the business. You can't say this is, let's say, for this area alone, but it is for the entirety of the business. I must make sure that everything that I am putting in is accurate right from the input stage. And then in analyzing my data, in setting up people onto products, if I want to bring in a product, let's say I mentioned internet banking, USSD, and all that, to make sure that my banking is enhanced. And in these days of COVID, where we don't want more people to come even into the banking halls, we are setting them up more electronically. If my data is not right, the setup I would do for customers might end up being in the wrong hands. Like I mentioned, if my number is on the wrong account and I really know that it is on the wrong account, when I'm setting myself up as USSD, it is the account number on the system that you will initiate with. If I know I want to commit fraud with the account that I'm receiving alerts on, people will always go and learn so many things about the account they are receiving the alerts on. And in the long run, you get somebody hitting your customer's account. And once that sets in, you have a dissatisfied customer. It is your mistake in terms of your data being wrong, and you are held liable for all that. So in trying to make sure that you don't get to the wrong side of the customer, you don't get to the wrong side of the law, and you don't get to the wrong side of your regulators, then your data quality should be something that is of prime concern to you, and making investment into it is seen as actually making sure your business is going on well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Sari Asante. So I'm just going to go quickly into the chat box. I see that it's coming alive. I have a question from Musa Yani, and I am directing it to Mr. Sari Asante first. So he says, how does data storage infrastructure, backup and archiving devices affect data quality?
Okay. In terms of backup and archiving, we always say that input is what you get as output. So when you are archiving or backing up your data, let's say you are doing replication. If your data that is replicated to your endpoint is not complete, it means that at the time that you want to have access to it, you have lost even data on time, in between the time of what you have captured and what you are trying to store. So if your storage process is also not good, you may lose the quality of your data, because if I have a database backup, which I may need to restore later and work with it, and in the process of backing up, the data is damaged, I may not even get any restoration at the end of the day, which means I've lost my data from the time I was trying to do the backup. So in this process, we need to ensure that, like we are saying, if you are looking at data quality, then you are starting from the input up to the storage. So how you even store the data should also have to be looked at properly, and make sure that you are using the right backup tools and ensuring that you don't lose the quality from the existing system to the storage stage.
Thank you. Mr. Prabhash, do you want to speak to that question too as well? So how does data storage infrastructure, that's backup and archiving devices, affect data quality?
The data quality as we know it is not significantly impacted by data backup and archiving. We have issues of data capture, where, our relevance of data. The customer, as I said, when they're opening an account, you may not capture that data correctly. Or even, they have moved houses, they've changed their phone numbers, those numbers may not be relevant. But if you're backing it up, you just back up what you have. So it doesn't improve or doesn't kind of degrade. It is what it is.
Thank you. So somebody else says, I think simplified data collection tools manned by people with the right skill set will go a long way to improve data accuracy and quality in every institution. Thank you for that take, Oscar. I also have another question from Linian here, which says, most of the data is captured at the point of account opening, and updating this data becomes a challenge. Using this data becomes a bit irrelevant because this information may no longer apply to the customers in present or current time. So do you deal with this? Mrs. Sarah, do you want to contribute to this question?
Right. So data captured at account opening stage or at the time of acquiring a customer or a business is very key. Okay. Now, if you capture it, there's always a date stamp or date time stamp as to when you collected that information from the customer or from its source. Now, once you store this and data changes over time, in making or modeling that data as part of input to your analytics or your decision making, you should make sure that you reconcile the data looking at the timestamp when you collected the data and if the status has changed. It all depends on the completeness of the data you have collected. Now, if you don't have that date timestamp, it will be difficult for you to tell when you pick that information or which one is more current. So it's very key in defining the status of your data at every point in time, because that is what will affect the quality of the data in your decision making.
Thank you, Mrs. Sarah. I see all the many questions in the question and answer box. I see the chat box is on fire, but because of time, I had promised that I'm going to take 60 minutes alone of your time, and that's it. I might not be able to take all the questions, but after this conversation, I will be sharing a slide and you can forward your question and answers to the email addresses that you see on your screen, and we will also answer it as well. So my panelists, just in about 30 seconds, not more than 30 seconds, are you able to share what you think the future of data quality management is? I'm starting with you, Dr. Joseph.
Okay, so let me share some quick thoughts quickly. There are about 3 or 4 things that the future of data quality holds for us. The first one is that the data landscape will grow in the years ahead. The data landscape will grow and it will be very complex. More data will be coming in the financial system. It will be more complex because of the different fields and cells that we are creating. 2, regulators are going to descend on data users and data submitters. Regulations are going to be, there's likelihood that even the Data Protection Act would have to be looked at to conform with the current trends. So regulations are going to come on board on data space. 3, maintaining data quality is going to be a huge tax that data providers would have to really take about. It's going to be costly and it's going to be a huge tax. And 4, the information environment, the data information environment will be complex. Complex because of new trends that are happening within the financial space and non-financial space itself. So it will be complex. And then finally, there will be the need to conduct effective data cleansing. That in the years ahead, there's the need to cleanse data of old information and update it to conform with current trends. These are the things that experts are saying that in the years ahead, we are likely to see within the data quality management system of the financial services sector.
Thank you, Dr. Joseph. Mr. Prabash, in 30 seconds, what do you think is the future of data quality management?
Well, I like to make only one point, which is good data quality is a competitive advantage. Any firm that has it would go ahead. Those don't have it will lag behind.
Thank you, Mr. Prabash. Mr. Asari Asante, 30 seconds. What do you think is the future of data quality management?
Okay, to add to just what Mr. Prabash said, if you have good data, you are going to have an increasing decision-making time. because it means that once you know your data is good and you get things, you can make good decisions on time. And you can also execute decision-making quickly because you know that you have quality data. It means that in going to the future, we need to ensure that our data is good so that we can move with the technologies that come up.
Thank you, Mr. Sarah Sante. Mrs. Sarah Alpan, in 30 seconds, I would like to take your thoughts on the future of data quality management.
Right. So my colleagues have said a lot regarding the things that needs to be put in place. But then I'll also touch on technology and automation, because digitalization has made a lot of good things happen, as well as a lot of bad things. Because of digitalization, data capturing or gathering has increased at a very high speed. So the same way we should deploy technology to clean the data. So some of the data cleaning activities that we do, we should automate it. Put AIs in place that will enable us to clean the data faster, so that going forward, it will take away the manual nature of trying to synchronize the data you have from one source to the other. And at the point of capturing it, it can quickly flag some of these irregularities in the data that has been captured. So that is my take on the future of data.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Sarah. We're almost at the end, but I can see that the chat box has come alive. So I'm just going to quickly take about 2 comments. Emmanuel says, I agree with Mr. Sarah Sante on ROI of data quality, especially on the legal side. ROI on data quality and customer acquisition will aid in. Vinay, okay, Vinay's is a question. So Vinay, you can send your question to the email addresses that will pop up on the screen shortly. Okay, that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. My panelists, thank you so much for sticking with me for 60 minutes, going to 61 minutes right now. All your insights have been very valid, and I love the flow and the contributions that everybody brought to this conversation. And I'm sure that we all have better insights on the importance of data quality management, especially to the financial services industry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your participation and patience. I had over 70 people sticking with me from the beginning to the end of this conversation. We will look forward to meeting you in person soon. Thank you again, and I hope that you do have a wonderful day. While you're going, let's drop a comment in the chat box. What was the haha moment for you in this session? Just drop it in the chat box. I'll read it and check it out. Thank you so much for joining. Have an amazing day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
From Centelon side, Mr. Shande, Dr. Shande, Mrs. Sarah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.